Right, y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so in this video we are talking all about the FN P90 and pretty much why I love it so much. Now, again, it is Halloween month, so you guys can see I'm going maximum effort. With my lights on and my computer and wearing all this stuff, it's about 140 degrees, so I'm getting very, very sweaty. Of course, I can't really do this entire thing throughout the whole video. I also have to just put subtitles, and I'm not trying to do that. So I'll get a little more comfortable, and then we'll talk about the P90.
All right, so I guess what today's costume was like a 1980s SAS. I don't really know. I mean, I love wearing the gas mask. You guys will pretty much see that in a lot of different videos. But I think wearing that with the black gloves, especially with the fingerless gloves, and then also like the hood and whatnot, has a pretty cool SAS aesthetic. But again, we are talking about the P90. So I want to get a little more comfortable so we can talk about this sucker in more detail. So you guys can probably tell this isn't a real P90. This is actually an Airsoft P90. So the reason why I have this sucker up is it's kind of just where my P90 passion was really able to build off of. So if you guys don't know, before I actually joined the military, I got really big into Airsoft. And that's kind of just because I played a lot of video games, and we'll kind of talk about that as well and how that sort of influenced my love for this P90. But yeah, playing Airsoft and being able to actually get my hands on all these different guns really helped fuel the passion for actual firearms. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. This is just it's like a little Tokyo Marui Airsoft P90. Now you can see there's nothing real about this sucker. It's all totally Airsoft, fake suppressor, and all that good stuff. But the passion that came from this sucker is very, very real. So that being said, here is the actual P90. It's not loaded or anything. I'm pretty responsible. I would show you guys, but there's not really any point. You guys can go ahead and trust me on that one. Now, the real P90 is cool and everything, but you can see it's got a 16-inch barrel because this is a PS90, which is the civilian version of this sucker, and it needs a 16-inch barrel to be legal. Now, I do have the 10.5 or 10.4-inch barrel that I'm going to be throwing on here, so the barrel will end off here. But unfortunately, I'm still waiting on my paperwork from the ATF so I can actually go and do that. But for now, you'll see it sort of looking like this. And I've already had this thing in a few different videos. I changed the optic out recently and whatnots, but yeah, you'll see it all over the channel. Now, actually going a little bit more in depth as to how I sort of got into enjoying and just loving the P90. So this game right here is kind of where it all started. So if we can get that a little bit in focus. But if you guys don't know what this is 007 GoldenEye for the N64, the Nintendo 64. So I think this was the first game where I actually got my first like exposure to the P90. Now, I don't know what they called this in the game. It was probably like an R90 or something like that. But I remember using it in the game and just thinking like, it's so cool. The rate of fire was insane. It just sounded cool when you shot it. It looked cool when you saw it like on the ground and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of where it started, like the early fascination. This sort of planted that sort of seed for my love for the P90. But it's also an incredible game, so that kind of helps as well. Now, moving on from there, I think the next game, I mean, I played a few different games. I played, Rainbow Six Vegas 2. I played Call of Duty 4. I used the P90 a lot in Call of Duty 4. So really, video games was my first exposure to firearms and sort of just getting into firearms. But the P90 just kept coming up. And I guess it's pretty iconic. It's in Stargate SG-1. So I guess that's kind of like where a lot of people got into it. But for me, it was video games. So it was really awesome seeing like, it's nice to have like a reliable firearm to be able to see it in all these different games so you can utilize it in all these different games. Of course, each game is going to make it, good or bad. Some games might nerf it, but the P90 was always a lot of fun to use regardless of the video game. So again, sort of going from video games, that sort of got my passion into firearms. And since I was in New Jersey and I was also, under 18 years old, the only thing I could really do was get airsoft guns. So that's kind of where I started. So I didn't have this particular Airsoft P90. I had like a really cheapo one. I'm not even sure if I have a picture of it anymore, but yeah, that's kind of like where I was able to get my hands on that. And it was like a $30 P90, but it really made the love for the P90 kind of persist until I was actually able to get a P90. Now, this is actually my second real P90. The first one I had, you can sort of see it looks a little bit different, but it's got like pretty similar modifications and whatnots. But yeah, I love the P90, especially like, I mean, I can just talk about the P90 all day as far as like all the cool features. Now, something that everybody knows is the P90 doesn't look like every other firearm. It looks very, very unique. And it feels very, very unique when you actually hold it. But another thing that's pretty unique to it is the ammunition. So if you guys can see here, this is a 50 round magazine, which is pretty awesome to be able to have 50 rounds in one magazine. So a 50 round magazine, you can see you sort of load it here and then it sort of twists it about 90 degrees and then it sort of settles like that. But this is a P90 round. It's pretty small. It's got a little blue polymer tip to it. But this ammo is extremely lightweight, so even when you have like a 50 round magazine, it feels, you know, lighter than, you know, say a 30 round AK or even AR magazine. So it's really nice to have this sort of stuff. It's nice to be able to see the ammunition. So it's just cool features like that. Having a 50 round magazine is pretty unique. Having a magazine that loads like this, especially one that loads from the top, is, you know, you see it in a few other firearms, but the P90 I think was the first firearm that really did it right. I could be wrong on that one, but not many use like this rotary kind of style magazine and be successful with it. So it's awesome. Again, it loads from the top. So you just slap that sucker in and then slap it down. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you guys have played some video games, so you're sort of familiar with how it reloads and whatnot. But again, the look of the P90 I think is what gets a lot of people, especially for me. But actually getting my hands on it, it feels pretty comfortable. Now for me, I have long like monkey arms, like I can touch my knee standing. That's how long my arms are. But even holding the P90, it just feels comfortable. Now if you're used to normal like pistol grips on a rifle or pistol or what have you, it might not feel too comfortable at first. It might feel like you're sort of, you know, twisting your wrist a weird way, but once you start using it a while, it gets really comfortable. Now you do have this thumb hole. You'll see a lot of people like actually put their thumb in it and sort of grab it like that. But for me, all I do is put my thumb on top of the charging handle, and that feels very comfortable for me. So I've done a few things to make it a little bit more comfortable to use. I mean, the extended charging handle, that makes it a little bit easier to manipulate. But other than that, the controls are very, very intuitive. I mean, you have the selector switch or the safety right here by the trigger. So all you have to do is rotate it back and forth. It's very, very easy to reach, especially going from the safety to the trigger. Now it is bullpup. You can see it feeds from the top and then it also ejects from the bottom. So I'll sort of show you guys how that works. So if you rack it, you can sort of see right down there, right here is where the shells will actually eject from. And your chamber is right here in this little opening. So it might be a little bit hard to actually make sure and check that it's unloaded. You need to take the magazine out and whatnot, which you don't need to do with a lot of other firearms. But again, it's just something unique about it. And honestly, that uniqueness of functionality will draw some people's attention. It's kind of like the MP5 where you have the charging handle that you can lock up and slap down. A lot of people just like those weird, unique features. But other than that, this thing is pretty rich in features itself. It's got a rail on top, so you can put an optic on, of course. So this is actually a Vortex UH1, which is a holographic sight. It might look a little bit big on the P90, but it functions very, very well. I might get a low profile rail just so the rail isn't like sticking out as high or as much, but you have rails on the side that you can put on. You can see I got my Surefire flashlight here. Now mounting something like a pressure switch might be a little bit harder, but if you want, you could also get a laser on the other side. And it doesn't get in the way as far as like reloading. It doesn't get in the way of, you know, racking the weapon, manipulating it, holding it, or anything like that. So it's designed pretty well. Of course, you can add things like a sling. That's pretty standard. It should be able to accept a sling. You can get the extended charging handle. You can get extended mag release. So there's a few different things you can do to this. Now, of course, when you're talking about modern firearms, that should be pretty standard for them to have that sort of modularity. But the P90, I mean, it came out, I think, in 1990, which I guess would make sense. But I mean, for a firearm that's 31 years old, it's still doing a pretty good job of, you know, maintaining its relevancy, so to speak. Now, with the P90, another thing that I really love about it is how well this thing is with CQB. Even with this goofy 16-inch barrel, CQB is an absolute breeze. Getting through the threshold of the door, manipulating your weapon to cover down on certain danger areas, moving it around your kit, even with the sling on, is just a breeze. Now with this thing, when you shoulder it, if I were to stick out my arm my arm is going past the barrel. And that's kind of like how I personally judge it, if it's going to be like pretty convenient for using it in CQB. Because I mean, I was using an M16 at one point, and you could absolutely not get your hand past the muzzle. Even like the M4, you're gonna have some difficulty trying to get your hand past the muzzle. So having something that is this short, this compact, just makes it super, super easy. And even when I have the sling on, I can switch shoulders. So if I'm trying to, if I'm trying to go around a corner like this, I can do that. It's very, very easy. But if I'm trying to go around the opposite corner, all I have to do is flip it to this side, and it's very, very easy. I just need to start using my other eye. So there's a lot of firearms you can't do that with. Even when I have the sling on, that's extremely easy to do. And of course, you don't have to worry about taking brass to your face or anything weird, because it's ejecting on the bottom. So this thing is very, very ambidextrous. It's got the charging handles on both sides. The magazine loads from the top. It ejects from the bottom. And yeah, it's nice and short. So it's easy to manipulate it like that. As opposed to like doing anything weird like this, like switching my hands. You don't really need to do anything like that. Really, you just need to bring it over to the other shoulder. And there's not many firearms that I found I can do that comfortably with. So again, this thing is a huge plus when it comes to CQB. Now, if you guys have ever seen my videos of me shooting this, mainly on the shorts channel, you'll notice it has pretty much no recoil. Like, you can literally shoot this thing with your arm fully extended like that, and you wouldn't have any issue shooting it. It's not going to jack up your wrist or anything. And at the same time, it's not loud. I mean, it does shoot this small round, so there's not going to be a whole lot of power compared to things like a 5.56 or a 7.62. There's not going to be as much power, understandably, but it's nice and quiet. There's pretty much no recoil. You've got 50 rounds, so getting those follow-on shots is going to be very, very quick, very easy, and you have plenty of ammo to do so. So it is a little bit awkward to actually reload this thing, because again, you have to slide this back, pull this up, slide the magazine out, and you're pretty much hoping that nothing gets caught on anything. And then when you get the next magazine out, also magazine pouches, kind of a pain in the butt. I'll actually show you that right here. So this is what I use for my magazine pouches. It's just a drop leg magazine pouch. And that can get pretty awkward. You can put this in like a normal AR magazine pouch and it'll work okay, but it's nice to have something that fits it a little bit better. So you have to get it out of those pouches. If you have like awkward pouches that might, fit a little bit tight or something, and you gotta slide it in, make sure you're not hitting it weird, and at the same time making sure this is actually aligned with the barrel, because if it's off to the side a little bit or off to the other side, it's not gonna go in very easily. So you need to line it, make sure it's forward all the way, and then you can slap it down. So it is pretty awkward. What was I talking about? Yeah, so it is going to be a little bit more awkward to reload it. However, again, you have 50 rounds, so you're not going to be reloading it as much. Now, at the same time, you don't need to carry as many spare magazines. Really, like 2 or 3 spare magazines will be good for you, because again, that'll pretty much be equivalent to a full combat load, which is going to be around 6 to 8 AR magazines. So it won't take about as much real estate on your gear. The magazines are a little bit longer, so it's a little bit more awkward, but again, less real estate, and also it's lighter because the ammunition is very, very light. So yeah, it's nice. You're going to be shooting the sucker for a very long time, and you're going to be like, crap, when do I have to reload? Honestly, you'll feel like you're in like a 1980s action movie when you're just shooting forever and you're never reloading. That's really what it feels like. Sometimes I get a little bit annoyed and bored because I'm shooting forever and I'm like, can I just reload this thing already? So I got to say, it's pretty awesome having that sort of capacity. Now, lastly, a firearm is not going to get that much fame and notoriety if it's not reliable, except for like things like the Desert Eagle. Honestly, the Desert Eagle is not very reliable, but that thing's doing pretty well as far as making some screen time and also making some time in some video games. But this thing is very, very reliable. The only thing that might give you some issues, if you have like these converted magazines where, it could hold 50 because it's got the room, but they get converted to hold less. If you have things like this, it might make the weapon malfunction. But the weapon itself is very, very reliable. You don't have to worry about having a malfunction. It might be a little bit more awkward to work a malfunction if you get like a stovepipe or something like that. But this thing is reliable. If you do need to clean it, it's very, very easy to take apart. You just need to make sure you rack it. You've got a little button right here. Press that sucker in, take this portion off. Take the operating group out. Right there, very, very easy to clean. And then if you want to clean the trigger pack, you can just slide the butt plate up, and then take this sucker out. And that's pretty much your main components right there. It's kind of like, it feels like a Lego gun, if that makes sense. But it's very, very easy to take apart, very easy to clean, which is the nice thing, especially when you're talking about like infantrymen and whatnot. We like things being simple, and we like things being easy and quick, so you can't mess it up. And just like that, it's back together. So this thing is very, very convenient. It's very comfortable to shoot, and it just looks badass. You'll feel like a badass shooting this thing. I mean, mine isn't even full auto. It just shoots 1 round at a time, but it's still a lot of fun. Again, you're going to be shooting for days because you have 50 rounds in your magazine, and at the same time, it has no recoil, so it's going to feel like an airsoft gun, honestly, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. Especially when you're talking about CQB and whatnot, it's very nice to just be able to keep sending rounds off and not really feel the brunt from that recoil. But that is pretty much it for this video. So again, my love for the P90 sort of started with video games, specifically GoldenEye, and then from there I played other games like Call of Duty and whatnot, and then I was actually able to get an airsoft version, and now since I'm a big boy, I can own a real one. Well, almost a real one. It's, again, I gotta do something about this barrel here, but it is a very, very fun gun. It looks badass, and I'm just happy I can own one, because it's kind of like a childhood dream come true. Because there might be some kids out there that see like a really, really cool car, and they'll get like a toy version of it when they're a kid, and they sort of strive to get something like that in the future. And sometimes, you know, they do. They save up their money, they get this really cool car. But for me, I'm not really a car guy. I'm more of a gun guy. And this is kind of like my equivalent. You guys might have something you can compare that to, but for me, it was getting a real P90. Again, I love these things. They're a blast, really. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. This was a less serious one. Again, it is Halloween, so I'm wearing like this weird fake SAS costume and whatnot. But I will throw in some clips every now and again in the video so you can sort of see me manipulating the P90 and how nice it is to be able to have this thing in a sort of CQB environment. Because again, CQB is kind of like my bread and butter. So if I have a weapon that works really well in it, I'm going to be able to appreciate it a little bit more. But if you guys have fired a P90 or even held like an airsoft version of a P90, or if you used it in video games, let me know what you think about it. Does it look cool to you? I know a lot of people think the P90 looks very, very ugly, but I mean, honestly, their opinion is just invalid. So yeah, if you guys have your own experiences with the P90, put that down in the comment section, because again, for me, I mean, you guys have seen I have a merch design, which I'll put up over here, link in the description if you guys want to check that out. I have a merch design with the P90. That kind of goes to show how much I love it. And if you guys see some of the games that I play on the channel, you'll notice whenever I see a P90, I get pretty excited, because it's a very cool gun. And again, growing up, I sort of just saw this thing all over the place, and it was very, very cool every single time. But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, you can hit that thumbs up. Again, if you guys want to see sort of videos like this, by all means, this is kind of just me talking about my opinion. It's not very like scientific. I'm not going into like the mechanics and the, you know, performance specifically of the P90 compared to other guns. It's kind of just me fanboying out about the P90. But if you guys have any sort of recommendations, put them down below. Again, it's nice to be able to do like a less serious video. I mean, none of my videos are really too serious, but it's nice to be able to put out a cool one like this. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you again for supporting the channel and all that good stuff. All my people who support me on Patreon, I do appreciate you guys very, very much. It really allows me to get a little bit more comfortable with YouTube. It allows me to put some money into the YouTube so I can produce some more videos for y'all. So thank you for that. And thank you for letting me fanboy out about the P90, because again, this thing is badass. But that is it for this video. I will see y'all in the next one.